All right, we're talking about how to build an audience of the right people so you can enroll perfect fitting, high quality clients in your coaching business instead of chasing leads that drain your time and go nowhere. So over the past 8 years, I've used pretty much every proven strategy out there to sell coaching. High ticket, low ticket, funnels, launches, webinars, and they all had one brutal problem in common. See, the funnel system was a very linear design. And so it assumes that, hey, you're gonna land on a landing page, watch a video, and then buy something that's really expensive. But it doesn't account for the way a lot of people actually purchase. Usually they want to interact with your content, they want to get to know you, and it's not a perfectly linear journey. And I've experienced this a bunch of times too. I remember when I was running a launch campaign, I'd spent a few $1,000s on ads, and I actually got some solid leads coming in. I remember seeing some names pop up and thinking, oh, these look like my people. I could tell they were engaging, they were watching the content. So I thought, this is it, this is gonna convert, this whole thing's gonna work, and we're off to the races. But the problem is, it didn't immediately sell them within that week, and so then they were gone. And after that whole effort, no engagement, no replies, it's like all that audience I had even built up, gone. So the system wasn't built to keep people in, it was built to pressure them. And if they didn't buy immediately, then they just fell out. It's a broken system. And honestly, it felt really defeating because I knew the problem wasn't the effort I was putting in. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. It wasn't working. And eventually I realized why. See, the old marketing funnel from the 2000s and 2010s, it worked because ad costs were dirt cheap. You could blast your message to tens of thousands of people and just find the tiny percentage who were desperate enough to buy right now. And it worked. But the thing is, you weren't actually building relationships. You weren't building a brand. You weren't building trust. You were just playing the numbers game. And that game doesn't work in 2026 and beyond. So what I found last year was a much simpler approach, and everything changed in my business. Instead of these complicated high volume funnels, I just use one ad, just one. And it's designed to attract the right people into my ecosystem, invite them to follow along, and that's it. No pressure, no big ask, no obsessing over funnel metrics and chasing people, just a clean, simple system. And I remember the first time I tested this because within a few days, I started seeing something I'd honestly never seen before. People who looked like my ideal client, they were DMing with me. And I mean, I don't think I was ever getting much DM interaction before. They were starting real conversations, and a few actually became my clients within a few weeks. That's cool, but that's not always how it works. Sometimes it takes time. And I also have people who have been engaging in the content for months. One of my existing clients, 9 months later, bought into my accelerator. So let me show you the new approach. That way you can get better leads, you can get more clients in your business, and you'll start to shift the way people see you. Instead of like, oh, here comes another person trying to sell me something, you actually become that person that they know and they like. They feel like they know you personally, and so it builds real trust. By the way, if you don't know me yet, I'm Steve Perkins. I'm the founder and CEO of Greenhouse Coaching. I help coaches scale to their next 20K a month without rebuilding the soul-sucking corporate life they left behind. And what we do instead is we build freedom and life-aligned scale with one system called the Biz Builder Growth Plan. So if you missed the last video, go ahead, link in the description. You can sign up for this 5-part series and catch that video. But what we're talking about today is the first part of that system, the CoreAd. And the CoreAd is all about how do you start building the right audience on autopilot with just one ad that's not complicated. And so let's dive into how it works. All right, so we're gonna talk about the 3 components of the CoreAd Engine, but first, quick recap on the trust cycle. So if you want more of the info, I went over it in the last video, but the idea is really simple here. We've got 4 steps: creating your audience of perfect fitting clients through the CoreAd, using that to get them over to your core video on YouTube where you nurture and build the relationship and build up the trust until they're ready and they purchase from you with the core offer, a really simple, clean offer of how to work with you. And then as you work with them, they're getting results in your premium hybrid program. So you're getting proof points and social proof, and you can share through their core story, which feeds the loop, and it's a virtuous cycle. All right, so that's what we're talking about. And when it comes to the CoreAd Engine, it really solves this problem that we've been talking about. And here's an example. One of my clients, Craig, when he joined, he said this. He said, I tried paid ad funnels. I was getting super cheap costs, but the conversion was really low. And I also tried VSL, but tons of book calls ended up as no-shows. So maybe you've had these kind of results. I've experienced the same thing. And it's this common feeling, like I'm great at coaching. I'm really good at helping people with what I do, but I'm also burnt out on the one-to-one delivery because it maxes out my time. And so he was saying, like, yeah, I've got a great following, but it's all kind of smoke and mirrors because I'm not actually making enough money with this model. So we switched him over to this model we're talking about today, and immediately he started getting the same benefits that me and my clients get, which is, 10 to 100 new perfect fitting followers every day, boosting the engagement on content because of the way this works. I'll show you in a second. Getting people on your YouTube, your email list, all for less than $50 a day on ads. It's a crazy ROAS when you use this kind of approach. And then kind of the side benefit that all of your followers actually see your content because of the way that we boost it up to them using a super cheap strategy. So let's talk about the three components of the CoreAd Engine. You've got your follower ad, your organic content, and your retargeting. So the purpose of the follower ad is to give you controlled audience growth. If you're just posting organic stuff, waiting for it to pop one day, something go viral, that's great and that's good. We do need to build up the skill of organic content. Problem is you're running a business. You can't just wait. You have to have money and you have to have a way to control like the inputs and outputs. So the follower ad is what gets you that controlled growth. But then along the way, we're learning and getting better at organic content because that's your best kind of growth. That's going to be your best fitting audience. That's going to be the best kind of reach and distribution, but it's unpredictable. And so we're going to do that in parallel with the follower ad that's controlled. And then the retargeting ad, this is that side benefit that allows you to have controlled audience nurture. And what that looks like is a really cheap way of getting all your content back in front of your actual audience and in front of the people who have just seen you in passing but not followed you yet. So here's the benefit of each one. Now, with the follower ad, we want to first start with a version 1. This is going to be a post that is very congruent in style to your typical organic posts. So then when people see it and then they see you again in their feed, they know it's you. But the problem is this version is going to feel like an ad. And so over time, as you have more high performing content, you want to take some of those posts and boost them as your follower ad. And this is the best way to get really good performance in a way that doesn't feel like an ad. So all along the way, what we do is we sharpen our message with the 5 Ps that we talked about before. And we get these conversations going in the DMs when people follow us. So new followers, you can start to engage with them. And usually about 1% of the time, people will be ready to work with you right away. And the rest of the people, you're just starting to build up that trust through conversation. So then with organic content down here, we are using something I call the content code. And it includes a few key steps. One is batching so that you're not on that endless hamster wheel. The other is viral mining, which is just an easy, simple way to look at other people in your niche, learn from what's working in their posts, and then apply it to your topics and your area of expertise. So it just really kind of is that immediate jump step to start getting more engagement, more reach with your posts. And then third is a content calendar. So you're not off the cuff. You're not always feeling behind or winging it, but you've got a plan so that you know you're rotating through both reach kind of content and educational content. So we'll talk about that more in a sec. All right, and then third, the retargeting. So I already mentioned this, but this is really a low-cost way to keep all your content in front of your audience. And it's a simple strategy where you look at your best performing posts every week and you boost them to your followers and to the people who have engaged with your stuff. So then at the same time, this is amazing, but it turns your glancers into followers. If you just showed up in someone's feed one day, maybe they liked it or they watched your video, then they never see you again. But with this strategy, it gets your stuff back in front of them. And so it's getting people into your ecosystem and keeping them in there. And then, the ultimate step here is converting warm audience to your long form content. And that is what you do with the comment trigger or some other CTA. Again, that's what gets people moving from audience to core video, nurturing them. So that means that every time you post short form, you want to call out your core client. You want to call out to them like you probably experienced in my posts where I say, hey, if you're a coach trying to get to your next 20K, but you're feeling stuck, it's like, I always want to say that because I never know what kind of post is going to pop. And so once something does, then guess what? It's already formatted in a way that I can boost it as an ad. All right. Now, if you want help with like any of the nuances of any of these steps, I have a bunch of trigger words right here for my ManyChat, and you can go to my Instagram, Coach Business Builder, and get any of these. I've got like a boost, detailed steps on that boosting and retargeting strategy. I've got profile optimization, the ManyChat setup, and then some of the bigger pieces like the content code, which goes over how to structure and script your posts, how to separate the types of content and the rotation of those. And then some other things like optimizing your calendar and just getting over the hump if you feel like that resistance to posting consistently on social that we've all felt. All right, so just a quick reminder here. The problem with the old way of doing things, all the different funnels, whether it's a VSL funnel, a webinar funnel, an email sequence, any kind of just landing page, paid ad, the problem is this: you get all of these wrong people in your audience. The ads are more expensive and they're getting worse leads. So maybe once in a while you get the right person, but then even when you do, you're trying to move them to a decision before they're ready. And so they drop out of your funnel and they're lost forever. And that's actually the worst part, is they're not in your ecosystem anymore. They're not going to keep seeing your content. You don't have a chance to build any kind of relationship. And so really you're left to just getting this like 1 in 10,000 person. And by the way, they're probably not a good fit. So if you're experiencing crickets when you make offers and in your content, this is probably why. So instead, what we want to do is the trust cycle. And really what this is getting the right followers into this ecosystem. We're building trust over time until they're ready. And then they become a paying client. And so it's really simple because it just follows like the actual psychology and human nature. We want to watch, we want to shop around and make sure we're making a good decision, and then go all in with somebody that we trust. So let's talk about the content code for a second. What I recommend to my clients is this: you want to have actually a breakdown of the types of content. So one of the problems with organic content is we either do all content that's trying to get reach or all content that's trying to convert, and it's not the right mix. You actually need a mix of content. And so about 50% of the time, you want content that is trying to create curiosity, grab attention, and that's for reach. The purpose is to get reach. So sometimes the topics are even more broad because you want to appeal to a bigger audience. But then the other half of the time, you're doing these 3 things. You are educating to show that you know what you're talking about and to be actually helpful, and that creates authority. You want to have connection content like Instagram stories showing behind the scenes, showing a little FOMO about like what your clients are doing and what you're doing with them, and also just showing some of your life. That builds trust. And then the last piece, 10 or 20% of the time, is promotional stuff, and that's for conversion. So sometimes people are trying to sell too much, but sometimes as coaches, we shy away and we never make offers. And that's also a problem because then people don't know what what the next step is to work with you. Sometimes they don't even know that you have something to offer. So this is the breakdown. And then within that content, you can do something like this. So what we talk about is a post is broken up into a short hook, a short opening, and then the meat of the post, and then a CTA. So your hook is usually like 1 to 2 seconds. That's just stopping the scroll and creating curiosity. But then the next 5 seconds are opening. So you think about it like starting a story. And the brain, when it hears a story starting, it's like you need to see what happens next. You know this feeling because it's like a hot start to a show. And so you want to kind of continue to pique the curiosity and then go into the main part of the post. And this, what works best these days is one of these 3 things, either a story, an analogy, or a framework, because all 3 of these are engaging ways to get to an insight. And so you might share a story of something that happened to you. You might be sharing like steps to a framework, but all of it is to give an actual helpful insight. And then in your CTA, you can give them the next step in the trust cycle. So this is not trying to sell them. This is not trying to make some disconnected offer. This is like, what's the next logical step from where you just took them in your post? And this is a really great framework that just works. So all of this stuff that I teach within the Business Builder Accelerator, we call it a greenhouse, the roots up approach. It's about getting to the basics of what really actually works, kind of ditching all the rest and all the overwhelming stuff. And then what we do is we put it into a 90-day sprint. And so in this growth sprint, we're identifying like, where are you at now? What's your bottleneck? Where do you want to be in 90 days? And what are the few steps that are going to get you there? And so that's why I say in the accelerator, I help coaches scale to their next 20K a month without the soul sucking overwhelm, because we're just focusing on the things that actually matter. We build freedom and life aligned scale with one simple system, the Biz Builder Growth Plan, so that you can have a high profit business that gives you the space to create meaningful client impact and the freedom to live life by design. So if that's you and you're ready to do something like that, then go over to Instagram, DM me the word grow20, and I'll send you the info of what it looks like to work with me. We take this chaotic mess that we all feel as entrepreneurs, and we turn it into 3 simple steps that are just proven to work. They've worked for me to get from 0 all the way to $1 million business. And this is what my clients are getting a lot of success with too. So next up in this series is the core video protocol. This is all about that step of long form content and nurturing and building trust over time. So if you're not already in the series, grab the link in the description. These will be delivered to your inbox over the next 5 days. But really, the core video is just the best part about being an entrepreneur, because it allows you to spend time with people at scale. It's like those coffee meetings, but they're happening while you sleep and while you do other things. And then what's so great is you start waking up to messages that say, hey, I'm ready to work with you. Where do I sign up? And that is just one of the best feelings. One of the people in the accelerator just had that happen yesterday. We were all cheering. It's just the best feeling to see that happen. So I'll see you in the next video. Here it is.